Alrighty, what is going on, y'all? Welcome back to Stealth and Steel Outdoors. My name is Grant, and today we're going to be going over the Franken bow that I have built for 2025. Now, I'm typically not someone who's going to buy a brand new bow unless I'm given a bow for free. I don't really think that the bow technology really is there to justify buying a new one, and these older bows shoot just as good as the new ones do. So if you are interested in buying a bow press and working on all your old equipment, this is a great avenue to get into, and we're going to cover everything that I did to this bow in this video. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump on right into this. Alright, so this is kind of an elite hybrid bow, really, mainly because there's a couple different pieces from a couple of other bows from the elite line around the time that I put on this bow to make what I would consider to be the most ideal hunting bow. So the riser is an Elite Energy 35. Now, I'm a little bit of a bigger guy. I'm like 6'2.5", 6'3", depending on what kind of boots that I'm wearing. So I really like the longer axle bows. The string angle is really forgiving for me, and overall these bows that have these longer axles just fit me a lot better than the shorter bows do. Now getting into the limbs. So the limbs are actually Elite Impulse 34 limbs. Now the reason why I had to go with those limbs instead of the regular energy limbs were because they didn't really make an 80-pound energy model. You know, they did at one point in time, but those limbs were really hard to come across, and they didn't have any in the factory. But I know for a fact that the Elite Impulse limbs will fit on most of the same riser designs, you know, as long as they are the solid limb bows. And we will get into reasons why I like the solid limb bows, but typically those limbs and those risers fit together. I have an Elite Victory over there looking right in the eyes, and that also has the Elite Energy 35s on them. That bow originally came with Impulse 34 limbs as well, but they were 60 pounds, and I basically was able to take the limbs off of this one, put them onto my target bow, and have a 70-pound target bow, while also getting a set of 80-pound limbs for my hunting bow, and that's exactly what I've done here. Now, it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows with this bow. For example, I probably went through 3 or 4 different sets of modules before I finally got a set that would fit me. Like I said, I'm a little bit bigger of a guy. My draw length is 30 inches, and if the bow is not to at least 30 inches, it really makes it hard for me to fit it to me, you know, and be comfortable and accurate to shoot and everything like that. And you're going to be looking a lot on eBay, okay? So you're going to have to really be paying attention to eBay if you need to get your draw modules, because I got the last set from one of the last vendors that had it, and he told me that these were few and far in between, especially in 30 inches. So I definitely lucked out with these modules, but that is something that you might have to do, especially if you buy a bow that doesn't fit you in the beginning. Alright, so now we're going to go over everything actually on this bow and how I have this thing set up. So right now I have this thing set up as if I was going to be going hunting, well, tomorrow. Okay, so starting off on the top, so right here I have my black gold pro sight. This is my 5-pin movable sight, and I have the custom pins on the inside of it as well. And right now I have this thing set out to about 60 yards, and I haven't gotten the perfect sight tape because I'm still messing around with my arrow combination and everything like that, but the sight and the bow is really close to being done. For a rest, I'm shooting a Hamskea Hybrid Hunter Pro with the micro adjust, and in my opinion this is probably the best value rest that Hamskea makes. You know, for under $200 you are getting a lot of value in a rest like this, and it's a Hamskea, so you know it's not going to break and it's going to be reliable as hell. Alright, and the bars that I'm running, I'm actually running 2. I am running Bee Stinger bars, and the back bar that I'm running I have the most amount of weight on, as you can see, and this is the Bee Stinger Micro Hex, and I'm actually running them on a Bee Stinger bracket that I got off of one of my other bows. And the front bar, I'm running I think it's a 15 or 16 inch Premier Plus bar on the front, and I have about 6 to 9 ounces on the front of there as well. Alright, so now we're going to be talking about hunting releases, and I know I just made a video about whatever the best hunting release is, and in that video I had a hinge release that I probably wouldn't hunt with, and to this day I still wouldn't hunt with it. However, I actually found a hinge release that I would be comfortable hunting with, and this is a True Ball of all releases. This is called the True Ball Sweet Spot Pro, and I like this release for a lot of reasons. And the first one is that it comes with this lanyard and a place to where you can secure it onto the release, and you don't have to have anything additional onto release or have to add anything onto it to make it wrist strap compatible. And that is a feature that I could thoroughly enjoy. The main benefit to this release is that even though it is a hinge release, it doesn't matter how hot it is, because until you press in the activator, this release is not going to fire. So if you are unfamiliar with this release, basically what happens is while the safety is pushed in, this head is going to free float all over and it is not going to fire. as soon as you push in the activator or take the safety off, this thing is going to be ready to go, and you can run this thing as hot as you want it. And for someone who is a puncher and who is a like an opportunistic shooter, this is very helpful for me, especially in hunting situations. So I'm probably going to test this out on this coming up fall, and we're going to see how I do. All right, and now I have saved probably the most important piece for last, because nothing else on this bow matters if you have a crappy set of strings, and we're going to talk about a crappy set of strings right now. So these are actually the original strings that this bow came to me on. Now, these are not the factory strings. These strings were actually put on by the previous owner of this bow, and these were 60X strings. Now, I have used 60X strings in the past, and I've had an awful experience on all fronts with them, okay? And the same is true with this one. These strings, according to the owner, were relatively new when he stopped shooting the bow, and I haven't been shooting it for that long, but I can already see where the serving color, if you can see it on the front here, it is green. Up at the top it is discoloring. You can see basically white all the way on the back end, and the same is true for the bottom one as well. And there's definitely some fraying and some not nice things happening onto the cable as well. Another additional thing is I had some serving separation when I took the D-loop off of it the first time, and I have to put this bow in the press every single night after I shoot it, every single night. I have also added in peep turners above and below the peep sight to kind of fine tune it, or to at least get it close so I can get it from shot to shot, but overall, not impressed with these strings, not impressed with the customer service, to say the very least, and I will be replacing these. I don't know which one I'm going to be replacing them with, but I'm definitely looking at a few different sets to put on here relatively quickly, because I like to get this bow set up and you know, start practicing with it and really getting it ready for hunting season, and not having this bow on the sidelines because the set of strings on it are not great. Alright, so now we're going to get into the reasons why I think this is the most ideal hunting bow that I've ever shot. And we're going to take a trip down memory lane, because when this bow first came out, I just graduated high school. I was a freshman in college playing college baseball, which is a long-winded way of saying that I had no money. Okay, and when this bow first came out, it was like 1,100 or like 900 and some bucks at my local pro shop, which is well out of my price range. But I shot it anyway. I fell in love with the draw cycle, with the limb stops, the way it held for me. It just held the best when it was set to my appropriate draw length, and I just fell in love with this bow. But I couldn't afford it. Now I actually can afford it, and I can afford to do all the other things that I want to do to it, like actually making an 80-pound bow. Another reason why I believe that this is the ideal hunting bow for me is because it takes about you know, less than half of the space that my bow last year that I used. And last year I used a Prime Nexus 4. It had technically 4 cams on it, and it was a split limb bow. So it took up like a good bit of space when I was sitting up into a tree stand. With this bow and how slim it is, like I said, it takes up less than half the space as my bow from last year did. And especially when I'm already going to be space limited up into a tree stand or a saddle, because I'm filming all my own hunts, I have all my extra gear that I got to take in with me and all that stuff. So space is really at a premium. I saved some space here. Granted, the bow is an inch longer than it was last year, but I saved so much horizontal space on this bow that it really does make it worth it. And above all else, I shoot this bow the best. This bow holds extremely well for me, probably the best like holding bow I've ever shot. The draw cycle is super smooth. I love the limb stops. It's an 80-pound bow. It kind of draws like an 80-pound bow, but out of all the 80-pound bows, and I have drawn some 90-pound bows in my day, this is probably the smoothest drawing bow that I've ever shot in my life. It's not necessarily a barn burner, but it's a super forgiving, and like I said, above all else, I shoot this the best out of probably any bow I've ever owned. At 60 yards, I'm keeping them inside of a Zen 10. So that's with a 5-shot arrow group. So if that's not saying something about how accurate I am with this bow, then I don't know what will. But that is all that I have for you guys this evening. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I was able to explain my perspective on why I think this is the best hunting bow for me. And yeah, please, and I do encourage you to invest into a bow press and to try to build out one of these bows like this. I have learned so much about archery, about tuning, about how bows work, why they work the way they do, all the different parts on them, and nobody taught me. Okay, I kind of learned all this all on my own. It's really not that hard, but if you are somebody that doesn't really like other people touching your stuff, or if you just want to work on all your own stuff, this is a great avenue to get into. And like I said, you can probably tie yourself up into a project like this for a couple $100, and it definitely is rewarding at the end of the season to know that you built something and were able to be successful with it. But I do appreciate you guys sticking all the way around to the end of the video. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a good one.